Good evening, this is Eswatini TV News Bulletin. Live from the capital of the Kingdom of Eswatini in Mbabane. My name is Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. His Majesty King Mswati III has directed that this year's Easter services be held virtually and will broadcast live. Over 10,000 people who visit local clinics will now have access to clean hot water. The Ministry of Natural Resources says the construction of the 10-megawatt solar power station at Kakomindaba has been completed. And now our bulletin in detail. His Majesty King Mswati III has blessed that this year's Easter services, which will be from the 2nd to the 4th of next month, will be conducted virtually to prevent the spread of COVID-19. His Majesty's message was delivered by the Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, at her offices in Mbabane.
I am directed by His Majesty King Mswati III to announce that Good Friday services will be held under strict COVID-19 regulations to prevent the spread of the virus. The services will be conducted as follows. Friday, 2nd April 2021, starting at 10 a.m. Again on Saturday, and the last one will be on Sunday, the 4th of April 2021, all starting at 10 a.m. These services will be led by the pastors from the 3 church bodies. The nation is advised to follow these services on all available electronic media broadcasting platforms, national radio at EPIS, as well as on Eswatini TV.
After the Minister of Home Affairs delivered His Majesty's message, members of different church bodies thanked His Majesty for blessing that the Easter service be conducted virtually. Bishop Samson Hlachwago of the League of Churches says pastors who will be at the National Church must make sure that they stick to their duties as per the program. He says church leaders should be mindful of time because the sermon will only be 2 hours due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sicela kubambisana ke bekunene simemetelo sesiphumile sembube sibambisane kule nkonzo simhlangano dodintsathu nebafundisi labawushumayela ngoba phela isikhathi sincane bekunene 2.5 hours umfundisi nakashumayela angabi muthe.
President of the Council of Eswatini Churches, Begindlela Magongo, urges Maswati to follow all the COVID-19 regulations. He says the Ministry of Home Affairs consulted extensively with the Ministry of Health on the regulations, so they should be followed at all costs. He says they have had concerns of whether children should also return to church. However, they are still consulting on the matter, saying the nation will be informed of developments regarding this issue.
Sekaphumile ke lama guidelines bekunene lokusho kona ukuthi vele indlela yokusebenza manje seyitawuvela ihambe ngawo lama guidelines. Siyadika ukuthi kuba khona nale mibuto ukuthi hawu bantwana litiko solo lisaqhubeka nekwenta ama consultations nabo bonke labafanele uze kubonakale indlela letawusita ukuthi bantwana nabo ezibabuyela enkonzweni babuyela njani ngendlela lephephile.
The minister emphasized that all COVID-19 regulations will be followed during the virtual service. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Muzim Konda, Mbabane.
Over 10,000 Emaswati who use public clinics will have access to clean hot water at these facilities. This has been announced by Acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku, who said this will enhance the country's fight against COVID-19. Masuku said this at the Lobamba Clinic during a handover ceremony of solar geysers for the government medical clinics project on Wednesday.
Acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku says Emaswati who use about 92 public clinics will now have access to hot water in these health centers. Masuku says this is courtesy of the government of Germany and Fraser Solar Frasium Energy. Masuku says this assistance has come at the right time where the Kingdom of Eswatini is battling with COVID-19.
It is therefore pleasing to stand here this morning to officially receive these solar hot water stations which will no doubt aid and protect our healthcare workers as well as the 10,000 Eswatini who use government clinics on average every day across Eswatini. This is indeed a momentous occasion and one which we didn't envisage we would be a part of just 5 months after the project was launched.
Minister of Health Lizinkosi also thanked the donation.
I just want to say on behalf of the Ministry of Health and say how excited we are about this project. It's not only bringing hot water in places where we would never have dreamt we would have hot water, but it's reinforcing age-old infection prevention measures that the ministry employs every time, whether we have an outbreak of measles, of diarrhea, an outbreak. Just this morning we were talking about TB and a young man came up to read us a poem.
This water will be used for hand washing in these health clinics. Present at the event was Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mangoba Kumalo, European Union Ambassador Esmeralda Hernandez Araconez, representatives of the German government, as well as Fraser Solar, Fraser Energy, among others. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela. Loba.
The Minister for Health, Lizinkosi, says the Kingdom of Eswatini has taken great strides towards the fight against TB. Ngosi says since 2011, there has been a great decline in TB new cases. The Minister was speaking during the World TB Day commemoration held in Eswatini.
The Kingdom of Eswatini joined the world in the commemoration of the World TB Day, which was commemorated under the theme, "The Clock is Ticking." Making her remarks, the Minister for Health, Lizinkosi, says even though the country is faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, there are a number of successes that the country has made with regards to the fight against TB.
There's a huge decline in the number of people who are newly infected by TB from 11,000 in 2011 to about 2,000 cases in 2020, which translates into 80% decrease of cases. Majority of TB patients are being cured, including drug-resistant TB. The current treatment success rate is at 86%, just 4% shy of the global target of 90%. There's an increased uptake of preventive measures such as the TB preventive therapy, TPT. There's use of modern technology, which is able to detect TB within 2 hours, unlike in the past where clients would know their test results in 2 weeks.
The American ambassador to Eswatini, Jane Maloney, reaffirmed the Americans' commitment towards assisting Eswatini to fight TB.
We affirm our commitment to eliminating tuberculosis in Eswatini and around the world, and to raise awareness about this disease. In preparing for today's event, I was stunned to learn that tuberculosis is one of man's oldest plagues.
The country has implemented a number of programs, such as the screening of patients in all the health facilities in the country, among other interventions, to fight against tuberculosis. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Babani.
The Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, says government has completed the 10-megawatt solar power plant at Komindaba in Lavomisa, and it is going to go into commercial operation soon. The minister said this during the commemoration of the Earth Hour at Royal Villas by the Eswatini Electricity Company.
The Eswatini Electricity Company encourages Emaswati to turn off non-essential lights this Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. to observe the Earth Hour. The Earth Hour is a global environmental movement aimed at raising awareness and inspire people to take action in preserving the environment. Speaking during the commemoration of the Earth Hour at the Royal Villas, the Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, says Eswatini has taken major strides in developing environmentally friendly solutions.
Projects such as the 10 megawatt solar PV power station at Lavumisa and at Komintaba, and in other small-scale solar PV projects in the agriculture sector, contribute to the much talked about carbon transition. The ministry is encouraged by the interest shown by developers who are keen to develop a further 40 megawatt solar PV generation plants and at utility scale. We are also encouraged by the responses on the interest in the development of the 40 megawatt biomass power stations.
Dudu Nhlengetwa Masina, Director of Eswatini Meteorological Services, outlined some of the country's achievements in addressing issues of climate change.
We have seen governments putting up an enabling environment in the legislation and policies, and we have seen already some renewable energy plants coming up. There is also we committed to introduce ethanol in our fuel, to have a 10% blend of ethanol. We have seen the legislative framework for that is already there within the petroleum legislation, and the company that will be working on the blending and the whole infrastructure for doing that.
Other speakers included representatives from Eswatini Water and Agricultural Development Enterprise and the Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority, who also emphasized the importance of preserving the environment. Last year, Eswatini Electricity Company saved 19.377 megawatts during the Earth Hour. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Muzi Mkhonda, Zulwini.
The Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says there should be proper refund systems in place in schools for a smooth reimbursement of parents. The Minister says central to this is sitting together and looking at school financial reports to see how much schools spent last year. The Minister said this on Wednesday in the House of Assembly when responding to the House of Assembly on the issue of refunding parents.
Members of the House of Assembly have applauded government for a quick turnaround on the issue of collection of last year's school fees and refunding parents who had already paid school fees for last year 2020. However, some members of the House, who included Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku, had questions for the Ministry of Education and Training about the refund process.
Mina njengabhadala 1/3 samba lenkulu kakhulu ilungelo lami nami ukuthi njengemdali ngiyive lento njenge-policy holder ngiyive sitochubeka sisebenze kahle ngoba kunema implications lokho kimi njengemdali wepolice.
Minister nje ngithi ngibonga le intelligence la isebente ngayo speak ekutheni ababhadali badalusho njalo for 2020 kepha ke utawuhanja phela kuyobukwa lebo REO ukuthi kubuke letikolo lokuthi isikolo sisinye ngabe sispende kangakanani.
Lesinye ke sikhuluma sesishilo ukuthi le refund is a process lekufuneka vele litiko libe ne statistical evidence then ke nasebabalile bese yaqhubeka le process.
Ngifuna ukubuta enduneni ukuthi bothishela ngabe ngoba tiyavula ngalo 29 iwaiver soyitholile yini yalokuthi baqashe.
Umbuto wami bola ekuthenini ba consider in ama private schools ukuthi nawo khona lapho khona abadali bangeke baba khona bafundisa ngesimo sokuthi uhulumende njengoba wadi bekasayina nje solo siqalile lo mnyaka lophelile basayina ema layoffs.
Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says it is important to first look at school financial reports before parents can be reimbursed.
A financial report, solo imtoka, solo ulama processes. Ngiyobe tasinika a clear picture ukuthi kulo mnyaka lophelile kwendekeni ngibani lothathelwe kanjani ufuna ukuthi arefundeke kanjani and so on ngoba na ubuka nasingakuthatha sikujikijele nje out singakwendi ukuthi kube orderly ungabe sesekubanga nalomsindo sijike singasakhona ukusebenza kanti vele tikhathi itikolo tilahlekelwe tikhathi leti matima ukuthi batawuqasheka nini i-waiver yatholakala ka-TSC, but due to partial lockdown kwase akusaqhubekile ukuthi kuqasheke. So right now uma sekuthiwa sekufanele kukwenteke sine-challenge nyana lencane nguleyo yokuthi TSC kube sekuphelelwa i-term of office.
Howard says without proper systems, the refund process would be chaotic. Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela with Bawetu Stole, Parliament.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade hereby extends the validity of liquor licenses to the 30th of June 2021. In a statement issued by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Siboniso Ngambule, the extension will assist businesses to restore normal business operations after the lifting of the ban of alcohol sale. Ngambule says their licensing office will, however, continue to operate on normal working hours with a limited number of officers. He says they trust that the business community will continue to observe all COVID-19 protocols. He concluded by saying that their inspection team will carry on with business inspection to ensure compliance. The Building Material Manufacturer and Retailers of Eswatini Association's chairperson, Mariana Puleng, says the passing of legislations under the construction industry will bring out some of the solutions to difficulties that hardware retailers are faced with. Mariana was speaking in a meeting held virtually with the relevant stakeholders in the construction industry.
The Eswatini Competition Commission, in collaboration with the Construction Industry Council and the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, held a virtual meeting where hardware retailers were engaged with the aim of enhancing ethical, competitive business trade in construction and building materials industries. Speaking during the meeting, Mariana Puleng, the chairperson of Eswatini Building Material Manufacturer Retailers Association, says the industry is faced with a number of challenges that can be addressed with passing of certain laws that are still in Parliament.
Another challenge is passing the CIC regulations at Parliament. Now, we feel as an association that we'd really like to see Parliament pass the regulations of CIC, because if Parliament passes the regulations of CIC, CIC will be able to step in and help us more with all our needs.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Construction Industry Council, Nhlanhla Dlamini, says hardware retailers need to be engaged on a certain laws that regulates them.
By ensuring that they too understand what is required of them when doing business within the ambit of the available legislation, which the legislation that creates both entities. This results in a multiplier effect as consumers will get value for money, and as it is an undeniable fact that all of us participating today are one way or the other consumers of this industry. This becomes a winning situation for society as a whole.
The Eswatini Competition Commission Cartel Enforcement Manager Nolwazi Kunene explains issues of prices.
Things like price are trade secrets and must be influenced by each entity's demand or supply. It's not something to be discussed with other competitors that this is the right price we should. The law takes its course in as far as the Competition Act is concerned if one is found to have committed any of these prohibitions under the Competition Act.
The Director of Small Medium Enterprises from the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Meluleki Dlamini, stated that retailers contribute towards economic growth in the country. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Babane.
The Vice President of the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, Hezekiah Mabusa, who was popularly known as HM, has passed on. Mabusa was involved in a car accident on Tuesday afternoon. The whole branch of FESBIC says it has lost a gallant soldier who fought for the development of the business community.
Hezekiah Mabusa was the Vice President of the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, has passed on following a car accident. Mabusa was the owner of HM Stationaries. Mabusa participated during the webinar post-budget speech where he was representing First Big. Speaking to someone who worked closely with Mabusa, Johannes Manigela, the chairperson of First Big in the Hoho region, says Mabusa was a brave man since he was able to ask for assistance from other sectors for the benefit of the business community. Manigela says that there were a lot of projects and plans that were on the pipeline which were meant to benefit small business people in the country. Manigela says the demise of Mabusa is a huge blow for the business sector in Eswatini.
Lokho nje sokusishayela udumalo olukhulu lesingathi ukuthi konakale phi uNkulunkulu sifulathele kwende njani kodwa ke konke sesikubhekisa kuye somandla ukuthi wathi yena sika business silimele kakhulu ngamaboza noma bomvusanini ma business babe maboza nawe yokhuluma ngebusiness bekasukumele eTulo kunengi lesikulungisile naye lokuphathelene nabo somabhizinisi neminyango leminingi besingongotha kuyona uhulumende besigijima kuwe besigijima naye bamaboza lokho nje kungenda ngibe nekwethuka kakhulu ukuthi sitawusebenza kakhulu siyibusiness sector ngoba diningi letinkinga lenyalo lebethi sidzinga sing First Big ukuthi silungisele lamaswati letitsenza tingoli letiningi ntonge njena titabo SRA tabo tax clearance bese sikugijima ngako sinayo ukuthi sibasita njani lamaswati ukuthi akhone ukuqhubeka asebende.
A police report issued by the Police Information and Communication Office stated that the accident occurred along Satellite Mvujini Public Road. Mabusa sustained serious injuries and was rushed to hospital where he was certified dead on arrival. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangin with Muzim Konda in Babane.
It is important for people in rural communities who do not have access to digital devices to be educated about the different issues affecting all sectors of society so that they can be important role players in the country's development. This was said by the recently appointed chairperson of the board of the Eswatini Multimedia Network, Musa Dlamini, during the network's meeting held at the George Hotel.
Although the world is encouraging the move towards the digital era, the Eswatini Community Multimedia Network says there are some people in the rural communities who still do not have access to the digital devices. Newly elected chairperson of the board, Musa Dlamini, says they are working to increase their stations to disseminate information to Emaswati who might not have the means.
I-COVID is something lekumele ukuthi ama-communities ngabe ama-communities iyahamba le information. Akusibo bonke abantu labane access to le information lesinayo thina ukuthi you sanitize ukudwa.
He says some people might have easy access to the COVID-19 regulations, but this might not be the case for those in the rural communities. He continues to say they will also sensitize people on issues of gender-based violence, which is on the rise in the country. Dlamini says youth empowerment programs will also dominate in these stations, especially because most of the youth is unemployed. Ambrose Zwane, the network's coordinator, says they are happy with the progress on the broadcasting bill. He says they have been in contact with the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology and have been informed that the bill is now in Parliament in the House of Senate. He further says having the bill passed into law will open a lot of opportunities for more initiatives for them since they have funding from different stakeholders. The first community radio station was opened in the Lubombo region in the year 1999. Today, all the regions in the country have community radio stations. The network's newly elected 7-member board will be in office for 5 years. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Nelson Langamandla, Muzim Konda, Manzini.
Very good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Here's a look at our sports news. Sihlangu Semnikati head coach Dominic Gunene says there are remaining 2 games in Group 1 of the AFCON qualifiers, which are against Guinea-Bissau and against Senegal, will be a better chance to prepare themselves for the future, since the 2 nations are amongst the best in the continent. Gunene highlighted this during a media briefing ahead of Sihlangu Semnikati's clash against Guinea-Bissau this coming Friday.
Sihlangu Semnikati is hard at training in preparations for their Group I AFCON qualifier against Guinea-Bissau this coming Friday. Sihlangu will then fly to Senegal to face their national team 4 days later. Head coach Dominic Gunene says the 2 fixtures are a better preparations for the future, since the 2 nations are amongst the best on the continent.
Yes, national team itawuhlala ikhona, so sifuna sibe nendlela yokuthi kwenziwa njalo ukuthi ihlale ikhona njengalokusho. But ke ukuthi kusele ama games lamancane live lelidzinga ligabholele kahle, so start imisela sawusebenza kamadima futhi.
2 players who have rejoined the squad after missing out in several games, Saberon Ziniza and Justice Figueredo, expressed their excitement in representing their country once again.
Inzima leningi kakhulu ukuthi sibe sesimeni ukuthi simiswe ekudlala kwama games, because ku national team ukuthi ngakuthi ube ku level lesetulu kakhulu to injalo.
No, inhliziyo imhlophe because ngibuyela ekhaya after a long time. So ngadlali almost the whole season, certain games manje, but ngidlalile 2. So I'm so excited to buya ekhaya ngidosita leave.
Sihlangu's game against Guinea-Bissau, to be played at Mabusa Sports Center, will be kicking off at 3 p.m. local time. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Sumhla National Stadium, Lobamba.
Eswatini Football Association, together with the Athletics Association of Eswatini, have signed a memorandum of understanding which will see the Athletics Association benefiting by using the different facilities owned by the Football Association. Athletics Association President Zakele Dlamini says this is part of their journey of developing athletics in the country. Zakele said this during the signing ceremony, which was held at Sikwaqa House in Babane.
Eswatini Football Association, together with Athletic Association of Eswatini, signed a memorandum of understanding that will see Athletics Association using facilities owned by the Football Association. The memorandum will see the athletes getting a chance to train and use different track fields which are owned by the Football Association.
Because we want to go Kuma regions, see or identify a talent, and our target is to have at least 10 good athletes from each region.
Speaking during the signing, Athletics Association President Zakele Dlamini highlighted that the memorandum is in line with their target, which is to go to different regions of the country and identify talent to use in the future competitions.
Because nathi futhi sine target yokuthi nase kuvalwe igoli labantu bangaphinde sibathathe siye nabo kuba trainer nama camps which we will use lama facilities.
Eswatini Football Association President Adam Setwa says it has been always the mandate of the football motherboard to work hand in hand with other associations.
And we are saying in football, and because we are in cooperation with Ongelama Sports Coach, not only because of the role that I have just assumed, but we have always said it that we want to work together.
Chairman of Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council, Dr. Dlamini, says when they were assigned to the council's board, one of the mandates they were given by the ministry was to ensure a relationship between all local sporting courts.
We are very much happy to see such an initiative. It's a great one. When the Minister of Sports appointed us, one of the mandates was to make it a point that all the sport associations must make sure that they forge a very good working relationship.
This memorandum is the second that the Athletic Association has signed with the football fraternity, following the one they signed in 2019 with the Premier League of Eswatini. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Babane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. His Majesty King Mswati III has directed that this year's Easter services be held virtually and will broadcast live. Over 10,000 people who visit local clinics will now have access to clean hot water. The Ministry of Natural Resources says the construction of the 10-megawatt solar power station at Kakomindaba has been completed. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from us here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for watching. Good night.